In this training session, we will cover the payroll system's ability to track tips and commissions. These two pay types are special, and the system handles both in a simple but elegant manner. If you're wondering why a construction company would need to track tips, the answer is that many contractors also own restaurants, and A-Systems has responded to their needs, just as it has responded to the myriad requests for enhancements to the software for many years. First, we'll talk about tips. The federal government requires employees to pay taxes on tips received in addition to their base pay. This means the employee must report the amount of tips received to the employer, so the employer can calculate and withhold taxes. There are basically two ways for an employee to receive tips. First, the traditional way is for the customer to give the employee tips in cash. The employee keeps this cash, and the employer never handles the money. For this type of tips, the employee should report to the employer how much the employee has received in tips, so the employer can calculate the amount of tax to withhold from the employee's pay. The second method of receiving tips is for the customer to pay the tip on a credit card or check payable to the employer. In this case, the employer can withhold the proper amount of taxes and pay the remaining amount to the employee. The payroll handles both of these methods through the Other Pay portion of timesheet entry. Select Timesheets from the Payroll menu. Then click on the Insert button to insert a new timesheet. Select a pay period ending date and an employee. Then click on the Other Pay tab and click Insert. Here you can select from a pull-down list of possible other pay types. These may include some user-defined types, but will always include standard pay types of reported tips and retained tips. Reported tips are tips paid directly to the employee by customers in cash. Retained tips are tips that have been collected by the employer on behalf of the employee and will be paid to the employee with their regular payroll. If you selected reported tips, the system will simply calculate and withhold the right amount of taxes during posting. If you select retained tips, the software will pay this amount, less taxes, to the employee on their paycheck. After selecting the Other Pay type, enter the account of the distribution for the payment here and the amount in this field. Once this timesheet is posted and the paycheck generated, the system will properly store the amount of tips for this employee so that the 941 and W-2 forms will print properly at quarter and year end. Now let's discuss commissions. The system allows for commissions to be paid to any employee based on any entered accounts receivable invoice. To set up commissions properly, let's go to the Payroll menu and select Employees. We will choose one of our employees who is a salesperson. On the Rates tab, we will check this box to indicate that this employee regularly receives commissions in addition to whatever pay type they are set up for. We'll indicate that this employee is paid commission in addition to their hourly wage. We'll also indicate that their standard commission rate is 5%. Now we'll enter an accounts receivable invoice. Select Invoices from the Accounts Receivable menu. To save time in this demonstration, we'll select an invoice that's already been entered and add a commission payment to the invoice. Click on the Commission tab, and these fields come into view. If we check the box titled Pay Commission on this invoice, the fields on this tab will be enabled. The list box will contain a list of all employees who might receive commission on this invoice. The commissionable amount will already be filled in with the pre-tax amount on the invoice, but you may edit this field if necessary. Now click the Insert button. On this screen, we'll calculate the amount of the commission that will be paid to our salesperson. The pull-down list contains a list of all our employees for whom we checked the Commission checkbox on the Rates tab in Employee Entry. If we want to see all of our employees in the list box, regardless of whether they were set up as a commissioned employee, we simply check this box before we pull down the list. We'll select our 5% commission employee, and the system will calculate 5% of the commissionable amount as his commission. At this point, we can add commission for additional employees if we want. Now we'll save the invoice. The system now knows that there is some outstanding commission that's not been paid to our salesperson. We can also add or edit commissions for invoices that have already been posted. Let's go to Customer Entry from the Accounts Receivable menu. We'll select a customer, then view their posted invoice. Now here's an invoice with no commissions. We'll add a commission amount for our salesperson, the same as we did with the unposted invoice. Now we're ready to pay these commissions to the salesperson. This is accomplished by selecting Timesheets from the Payroll menu. We'll enter a timesheet for our salesperson. We can enter the base pay through any of these entry types. In addition, we can instruct the software to look up any unpaid commissions for this employee. Here's how we do it. Click on the Taxable Other Pay tab and press Insert. Select Taxable Other Pay here and indicate where this timesheet will be charged. Now check the box at the bottom of the screen titled Commission. This button now appears, titled Retrieve Amounts. When we click this button, a window appears showing us a list of invoices containing unpaid commissions for this employee. Simply tag the ones you wish to pay and click the Close button. The Amount field on the timesheet entry screen will now contain the total amount of all the tagged commissions. Just say OK. Now we can save this timesheet and post it. The employee has now been paid commission, and the commission totals are tracked in the employee record. This completes this training session on tips and commissions.